Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Welcome all again!
Oh, yeah. What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday. It is time for the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. So much to get to. It is Tuesday, and that also means Ron Futrell is here in studio, as he always joins us, and he will continue to join us as the show moves 9 a.m. to noon, starting on August 12th. Let me give everybody a quick rundown on what we're doing today. Obviously, in the wake of all these shootings that have taken place over the weekend, we all know what happened October 1. We are going to have one of the survivors of that festival in studio in hour number 2. His name is James Varga. His story is unbelievable. So what do these shootings mean for somebody like James, who suffered through the October 1 shooting? And I can't even imagine how difficult it is for him seeing these types of shootings. And coming up at 7:30, we'll be joined by a woman by the name of Misha Ray. She's the marketing and outreach coordinator for the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. They're helping these survivors, victims of the October 1 shooting, deal with flashbacks of what's taken place over the week. I don't blame them for having issues, these survivors from October 1. So she's going to talk a little bit about all the phone calls and people that have reached out to her in the last 48 hours or so. That will be coming up in hour numbers two as well. JD, Ron, good to see both of you. I want to start off this show by talking about something that I think is extremely important, and in what I just talked about. If you're from El Paso, if you were involved in the shooting, if you're unfortunate friend or family member of somebody who lost their life, who was injured, same thing with Ohio, same thing with Gilroy, those aren't the only people that are affected by this. There's a lot of people that are affected by this, and we got a phone call.
The country's affected by it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's affected by it. We agree. We got a very touching phone call on the show yesterday. Man's name is Fred, and we were talking about, gun violence and, how the president plays a role in all this, leadership, Republicans, Democrats. We got to the political side of all of it. And this gentleman, Fred, called up. He lives in Las Vegas. He's Hispanic. He's been in Vegas for over a decade. And he was talking a little bit, very touching story, and he got very emotional. And we got emotional listening to his story, talking about how his 15-year-old son no longer feels safe after the El Paso, Texas shooting.
For the longest, we had a normal life. You had a great childhood, everything.
Yeah.
But now, he brings up these questions.
Yeah.
Brings insecurity and fear in him.
Your family.
There's some wonderful people in this world.
Of course, yeah.
I told them that not everybody's like that. He can go to school, he can go to college, he'll be accepted. He's afraid he's not going to be accepted now.
And that is just my heart just feels for this man and his family. And then he went on to say that his mother, or I should say his wife, was leaving to go to Walmart over the weekend, and his 15-year-old son got in the way to try to stop his mother from going. And I thought to myself, wow. I mean, that's powerful stuff. Really, really powerful stuff, and sad. And I give this man a ton of credit for calling into the show and being as emotional as he was. That's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah,
but
it's not easy to do what he did yesterday.
No, and that is why I say to everybody out there, it's not just those that were affected in El Paso or in Dayton, or as President Trump liked to call it, Toledo. Maybe we can let him know where the shooting happened. But anyway, I asked this gentleman, Fred, his thoughts on the political climate under President Trump, and here is what he had to say.
I felt racism in the worst way because I love him so much.
Right.
I for the first time in my life, I felt racism, and it's never happened with any previous president, any previous administration before this.
Okay, so this is a man that is pouring out his heart, a Hispanic man who works hard for a living. Sounds like he has a very nice family, wife, child. You feel and you just hear it. You hear the hurt in his voice. for the first time in his life, he feels racism now. And yes, he is putting some blame on President Trump. Let me explain to you what I'm talking about, Ron, and then I want you to respond.
Or lies in the media. Might be watching the wrong channels.
So you don't put any responsibility on President Trump at all.
Charleston, don't make it absolute. The Charleston, okay, let's go with the Charleston. You and other people for a long time have said what he said was racist there, and it was not. That's a lie. It's a lie, and it's been miscreated by the.
So let's say you're right.
The Charleston quote is an aberration by the media of what they have made up and changed his comments to make it sound racist.
I'll give you that.
When it was not.
Fine.
When it was not.
Then how do you defend four? Okay, fine. Let's find something else. How do you defend 4 women of color when he says go back to your country? Defend that. No racism there?
No.
Really?
No.
Has he ever said that to a white person?
No. He said, well, he went after Nancy Pelosi's district. What color is Nancy Pelosi?
Did he tell Nancy?
He's gone after a lot of different.
Did he tell Nancy Pelosi to go back to her country?
No.
Exactly. No. Thank you.
No.
Checkmate.
No, you did not.
Thank you. You. All right. Well, tell me what you think about this.
He's gone after a lot of people's horrible districts.
Well, tell me.
By the way, let's talk racism. You want to go through Ilhan Omar? You want to protect?
She's a racist.
Yeah.
You want to do whataboutism?
Yes,
you want to do whataboutism? Let's do it. I think Omar. I think Omar is a racist.
Times 10.
I think Omar is an anti-Semite and a racist. Does that make Trump's comments any better or worse? The answer is no.
No. It doesn't change them.
Let's talk about Mitch McConnell for a second, okay?
Oh, no. What did Mitch
you want to talk about a coward who's not doing anything as far as gun legislation goes. I want to talk about
it were
this,
that easy.
Okay? A group photo of young man wearing Team Mitch T-shirts as a sign of support for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, appearing to kiss and mock and choke a cardboard cutout of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, these pictures went viral. No decent person should say that this is fine. This is okay. So when Mitch McConnell's campaign manager responds to this, what does he do? Instead of making the appropriate comments and saying, hey, we don't condone this and all that, the first thing he says is we've watched for years as the far left and the media look for every possible way to demonize, stereotype, and publicly, castigate every young person who dares to get involved with Republican politics. Let me take those comments again, by the way.
No, he's right.
Demonize and stereotype. Is he talking about President Trump? Certainly sounds like it to me. Okay, so going on with this
story.
Talking
about what the media and people did with the guys that went to Washington, D.C. that stood there at the Lincoln Memorial and were castigated by everybody in the media and stereotyped by the media as racist when they were not.
Well, Mitch McConnell.
There's another one for you.
We can go there, but let me just finish here. Hours after the Texas shooting, the woman that Mitch McConnell is up against, her name is Amy McGrath. The McConnell team put up a photo that featured her name on a headstone. Let me repeat that again. Hours after the Texas El Paso shooting, Ron, hours. Mitch McConnell, some people in his campaign.
What's the connection? Is she from El Paso?
They put up a picture of her name on a tombstone.
People have done that all the time in politics.
So you are defending that kind of behavior. You look foolish doing that.
That's politics. Why are you pointing at politics?
What do you mean that's politics?
Why are you pointing at politics to solve this? I wish it were that simple. How do we fix this?
How do you defend that?
Brian? How do we fix this? How do you defend it? It's politics.
So that's your defense?
Stupid things that happen in the world of politics.
Do you defend that type of behavior?
We go back and forth with all sorts of people that put people in gun sites.
Ron, it was hours after the shootings.
The shooting, was she involved in the shooting? What's she have to do with the shooting? Why are you putting that connection together?
I'll tell you why.
Why are you making that connection?
I'm so glad you asked that question because I'll give you an answer.
They're misnomers.
I'm so glad you asked that question.
They do not connect.
22 people. Excuse me. 22 people.
They do not connect.
Excuse me. 22 people dead in a Walmart shooting. A manifesto, a white supremacist, a violent act that was a horrific act. The country is in mourning. And hours after this shooting happens, it's all over the news. Excuse me. All over the news. You asked me a question. I'm answering it.
What does she have to do with
Mitch
El Paso?
McConnell's campaign staff put up a picture of a tombstone and her name on it. How can you defend that and just say it's politics with all due respect?
Is she from El Paso? What's the connection?
That has nothing to do with it.
It has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with
Politics and violence.
Nothing to do with it.
How could you say that has nothing to do with it? That's insane.
Has nothing to do. One has nothing to do with the other.
It shows a pattern.
You're making a connection because you want there to be one, and there is not.
Oh, really? You don't think there's
you want there to be one, and there is not.
Really? You don't think there's a connection between?
Is she from El Paso?
You don't think there's a connection between?
Is she from Ohio? There was a shooting in Ohio.
You don't think there's a connection between the manifest?
Have you forgotten the Ohio shooting?
Let me ask a question.
Have you forgotten the Ohio shooting? Where was he from?
Can I ask you a question? You just used the word. There's no connection.
Have you forgotten Dayton, Ohio? I lived in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay, let me know.
Have you forgotten the Dayton, Ohio shooting and that shooter?
Okay, let me know when the interviewer can ask you a question.
You have.
Thank you.
You've forgotten that one.
Explain to me that there is no connection between the manifesto that this bastard put out there that killed and massacred 22 people to the President of the United States.
No,
look me in the eye
not.
and tell me there's no
not.
connection.
Is there
well,
a
guess
connection?
what? The FBI disagrees with you.
Is there
the
a
FBI disagrees with you.
James Comey, was he with the FBI? That right. That FBI.
The FBI disagrees with you. Even some of your right-wing friends disagree with you.
Is there a connection with the Dayton shooter and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren?
Here's why.
Antifa.
Here's why the answer is no. Here's why the answer is no.
Of course it's not. Because they're leftists.
Unlike you, I'm going to answer.
Because they're your friends.
I'm going to answer the question. Here's why the answer is no.
He was a leftist Democrat.
Name me
hated
one
Trump.
thing. Excuse me.
So
name me one thing that Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren have ever said to incite violence.
I don't know.
I'll name you things that Trump has done.
I do not know everything they've said.
Name me one thing.
I know them. I know if they did, the media wouldn't report it.
You want to use your word no connection? Let's do it with that.
I don't know everything they've said, and if they did, the media would not report it.
One thing that Sanders and Warren have both done is they have basically called Trump a fascist, and Antifa stands for anti-fascist.
This guy was
Explain to me how that
was Antifa.
Exactly.
Explain to me how calling someone a fascist
and this Dayton shooter. First of all of his social media was completely destroyed shortly after this was made.
The FBI
public.
has it all.
It doesn't make a difference.
Yes, it does.
He was clearly very left wing. He was very pro Elizabeth Warren.
So
he
what?
was very pro
So
Antifa.
what? You can be pro left wing.
And he also had a lot of signs that this was going to take place at some point.
Find me something that Elizabeth Warren has said that has incited violence.
The point is, he was not for President Trump. In fact, he was against President Trump. And both Warren and Sanders have basically called Trump a fascist.
So you think it is the same thing for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to call somebody a fascist as the hateful rhetoric that Donald Trump says every day?
I believe that her calling Trump a fascist and the Republican Party and the Trump regime fascist, or comparing it to fascism, could be considered insightful, hateful rhetoric, just as Trump was.
So you think
to someone who is as impressionable and as mentally ill as this Dayton shooter was.
Calling somebody a fascist is the same as calling Mexicans rapists. Calling somebody a fascist.
He didn't call Mexican rapists, by the way.
People,
but that's again.
Excuse me, I'll give you the exact quote because I've memorized
it. He said there were some, and he was referring to MS-13.
No, he didn't say there were some.
Let's go here.
He didn't say that.
Brian, here's your connection. Let's make this connection too. The Dayton, Ohio shooter. The Dayton, Ohio shooter was part of his inspiration was global warming and the end of the world and the Green New Deal.
How was that inciting violence?
The fear of death.
Nonsense.
Of course
nonsense.
It's nonsense. Of
you
course
are
it's nonsense.
Complicit. Complete nonsense.
But it wasn't to him, Brian. Brian, it was not to him. It is to me, and it is to you.
And that's a good point.
But
See, Brian,
he was inspired.
Brian, you're not mentally ill. Ron's not mentally ill. I'm not mentally ill. This Connor Betts was extremely mentally ill.
He was inspired by the Green New Deal, and global warming to kill people before the planet gets destroyed. That was his inspiration.
So I'm going to take a couple calls, but I'm just going to say one thing before I take the calls. It'll take about 45 seconds. Folks, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We are comparing the Green New Deal.
No, that's...
Excuse me. Let me just finish. We are comparing...
He did.
Let me just finish.
Okay.
You guys are comparing the Green New Deal as inciting violence, comparing that to the things that President Trump says on a daily basis, going after illegal immigrants. It is completely and utterly shameful and ludicrous.
In demented minds, it is.
That is a policy.
I am not comparing the Green New Deal. Ron, maybe. I am saying calling Trump a fascist and calling his regime fascist may incite violence in someone who is very mentally ill, and clearly Connor Betts was just on the same side. The things that Trump has said may incite violence in the shooter in El Paso.
You can't compare the two. It's apples to oranges.
Of course you can't, Brian.
Drastically mentally ill, and they're very impressionable.
I got to take some calls. All I can tell you,
they chose to do what they decided to do.
All I can tell you is that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have never told people to go back to their country. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have not laughed if someone in the crowd said, shoot an illegal immigrant.
Not that we know. It wouldn't be reported if they did. Let's go ahead. Can I say something real quick, Brian? I wish it was easy. I wish fixing this problem. I hope at some point
Never said it was easy.
I hope at some point we'll talk about how to fix this problem, because there is an answer, and I've got one. If you want one.
It's easy for someone to show compassion. Your president doesn't show that.
I wish
very interesting.
I wish it was easy enough.
Never said it was easy.
I wish it was easy enough as changing a president. I wish that would fix it. I wish it was easy enough as getting rid of guns. I wish that would fix it.
And you know what I wish?
Neither one of those things will fix this problem.
Listen, we can play that song. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. We can play that song.
I would love to hear Ski-Lo.
I'm going to say one wish.
Much deeper than that.
I'm going to say one wish.
Much deeper than guns,
Are you done?
politics, or fixing changing a president.
We're going to take your calls.
Ron is never done. Just let him go.
We're going to take your calls.
Keep going, Ron.
Let me see if I can.
I'm listening.
I'm going to give out the number. If you want to be a part of the show, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the show, 702-257-5396. If we are on the topic of I wish that everyone, Republicans and Democrats, could agree. Yes,
I wish it were that easy.
Hold on. We need some comprehensive gun control laws put in place. We need to act. We also need the President of the United States to stop the hateful rhetoric. Let me finish. To stop the hateful rhetoric. Obviously, mental illness is a big problem. There are many factors in there. It starts with the President of the United States. Again, we'll take your calls at 257-5396. Again, that number one more time, 257-5396. Alongside J.D. Sharp, Ron Futrell, I'm Brian Shapiro. Let's go. Let's take your calls. Let's start with Brady. Brady, what's going on?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, why not?
Yo.
I think I'm going to back Ron here because he's my only conservative right side buddy. The thing is, we got to bring back the respect for the gun. And I'm 51 years old. I grew up in northern Minnesota. And when I was in high school, we had classes that we actually went to the National Guard Armory and shot. That was part of our class. And then after a while, they kind of phased that out. And then pretty soon we had home economics and women's studies. And they took that right out. But, for a long, long time, I thought that was a good thing because people learned to respect what the gun was, what the military was, and how to defend the Second Amendment. And what's happening with these wackos, again, I tell you over and over, the problem is with the background checks.
Brady, let me ask you, I know you're a broken record, Brady, with all due respect. I hear you say that all the time. What would have happened if this person went into the Walmart with a handgun? What would have happened if this person in Dayton, Ohio had a handgun? Do you think 32 people would be dead right now?
Valid question.
He did use a handgun.
Excuse me, you are complicit. Those were weapons of war. He had 250 rounds of ammunition. You're not going to lie on this show. You're not going to lie on this show, my friend. Why don't you have some respect for the truth?
The same gun as the cops
You start this conversation talking about respect, and you don't respect the truth. I just gave you the truth. And answer the question. A police officer let's just say, is holding a handgun. I'm going to ask you one more time. What would have happened if this person walking into Walmart had a handgun like a police officer has? What would have happened if that person in Dayton, Ohio had a handgun? What would have happened? Do you think 32 people would have died? It's a yes or no question.
The guy in Dayton, Ohio, shot 46
Answer the
rounds with a
question.
handgun.
Answer the question. Yes or no?
Shot 46
answer the
rounds with a
question.
handgun.
Answer. I don't mean to sound like John McEnroe, but answer the damn question. If you had a handgun that a police officer would have, a police officer.
You think the cops stopped the guy?
All right,
with
you're not going to.
I wish it were that easy that we just could fix this problem by solving it with guns.
I wish it were that easy.
I wish it were that easy that we could change the administration and we would fix it, and that we could. But it's much deeper. The problem is much deeper than that, Brian, and you don't want to address that. And a lot of people on the left do not want to address the real problem.
You asked a very, very valid question, and
he wouldn't
yes,
answer.
he did. Well, yeah, but he had a handgun. But had the El Paso shooter had a handgun instead of an assault or an automatic weapon or a semi-automatic weapon, whatever you want to say, there's no chance he would have killed as many people.
Thank you.
And here's what I'm going to say: when the Constitution and when the Second Amendment was put into play, there was no weapons that could kill 50 or 60 people in a minute and a half or in 30 seconds.
That is a valid point.
And so, considering the type of weapons that are on the streets now, is it unreasonable to create some type of alteration to the Second Amendment to get them off the streets? I think that it is completely reasonable considering the technology that they have today and how many people can be affected in such a small amount of time.
I agree.
I would like to have the discussion of repealing the Second Amendment. How about that? This may shock you a little bit. Let's do that.
Nobody said that.
No, I would like to have that discussion.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm not being sarcastic.
Okay.
I think it would be good for the nation.
Nobody wants to repeal the Second Amendment.
I'm not suggesting
it would be
that.
a good discussion.
When
to
has
have.
any Democrat that is in office right now?
I'm saying right now, I think
that's
it would
ludicrous.
be no, it's not.
I've never wanted that.
If you think guns are the problem,
I didn't. Certain guns are the problem. I didn't say all guns are the problem.
If you think guns are the problem,
when did I say
let's
all?
have that discussion.
When did I say all guns are the problem?
I didn't say you said all guns. You
when
said
did
guns.
I ever say repeal the Second Amendment? That's a stupid right-wing talking point.
Which gun should be? Which gun should we get rid of?
First of all, the guns that were used over the weekend. Okay, you shouldn't
the Glock. The Glock 45.
One of the guns that was used over the weekend.
One of the guns. Okay. 250 rounds of ammunition. You should not be able to buy 250 rounds of ammunition in one day. Okay, that's number one.
I couldn't buy 250 rounds of ammunition in one day.
These types of weapons that are being used, should be used by law enforcement.
I could make,
and they should be used, in war. Okay, we got to take some more phone calls.
A lot of people make their own ammunition. You're not going to stop ammunition.
I know.
People make their ammunition.
We heard the same thing with Paddock with the bump stocks.
I wish the answer,
ammunition. I like it.
I wish the answer were that easy, that it were guns. But you do. Do you want to talk about the real problem and what needs to be to solve that? I don't think you do. I don't think the left does. But anyway, let's go ahead. We could talk about these surface issues.
All right,
and go there.
It's not a surface issue. Let's take some more phone calls.
These are not the ones that are going to solve the problem.
Let's take some more calls. Our phone lines are jammed. We got to get to them. Let's go to Neil. Neil, what's going on?
Hey, Neil.
Hey, Brian, listen, I have a solution to this problem. Okay, first of all, I don't think you can make adjustments to the Second Amendment. It's just too doggone popular.
Well, I didn't say that. JD did, and that's his opinion.
I did, and I'm the conservative voice of the show.
Let me put out my recommendation, all right? And I know a way we can make Rachel Maddow, Nicole Wallace, and Donnie Deutsch happy.
It's not about making Rachel Maddow happy. It's about saving lives. So stop it.
Let me put out my suggestion.
I know, but you start off by making a comment like that, you lose credibility. This isn't about making a stupid TV personality happy. Why don't you be honest and start the conversation by saying, I have a solution. I don't want these shootings to happen
anymore. He's being entertaining. Let's hear it. Let's hear how
it's not funny, Neil. We're talking about lives. I don't care about making Rachel Maddow happy. Let her girlfriend make her happy.
Brian,
go.
That was fun.
Let's put Robert Mueller in charge of this investigation. How's about that?
Can you say something serious, please?
All right.
Or I'm going to hang up on you. Can you say something serious?
We'll do the agility test first.
I'm going to make Rachel Maddow happy.
The FBI.
I have something to do to make Rachel Maddow happy. You have nothing to say about.
This guy was the supervisor of the FBI. Can you believe that?
You know what I can't believe? That you call up to a show with this nonsense. You don't have any real solution. You're just calling up saying stupid things.
He investigated the president for 2.5 years.
All right, so that's your answer. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Neil. The 32 people that have lost their lives in the last several days. If you went up to their families, this would be your solution? You talk about Rachel Maddow and Robert Mueller. That is a disgrace, with all due respect.
Well, they seem to be screaming the loudest about, injustices and racism.
If you're talking to the families that lost loved ones in Walmart and in Dayton, what would you tell them? What is your solution?
There's nothing I could say to compensate for their loss.
Yeah, there's nothing you can say that makes sense. Thank you for the phone call. 257-5396.
There were 55 shootings in Chicago over the weekend.
Yes, there were. There were.
They've got 300 people killed in Chicago. It's just August. It's just over 200 people killed in Baltimore so far this year. Okay, so look at if you want to talk about the underlying problem and the problem that causes not just gun violence, but it causes suicide. It's young men that feel disconnected from anything real.
Well, let's not change any gun laws, though. I got you.
No,
it's all mental illness.
It's the absence of fathers in homes, and it's the jacked up family. It is the bigger problem. It's a big part of the problem, and it's bigger than just gun violence. These kids are committing suicide. They're disconnected from society. They're disconnected from their family. They have nothing to go to because we've had 30 years. We've had 30 years of society, and I'll say leftists in society, Hollywood, the media, movies, music, that has created a culture.
Oh, okay. The president hasn't created any type of culture. He's perfect.
Brian, I wish it were that simple.
Let's take some more calls.
I wish it were that simple.
Ellie, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's up?
I wish we could just get rid of the president and fix it. Boy, Ellie. I wish that would be great.
Hi, Ellie. What's up?
There's a much bigger problem.
I'm sorry. Eli, you're up. What's going on? Eli, are you there? You might want to turn down your radio. All right, we lost Eli.
You realize when you're a young man and you're jacked, you've got no father, you have nothing to live for, and you've got nothing. You've got some mental. You're doing drugs.
I get what you're saying. We got to take some more calls.
You go somewhere, and you know where you go. You lash out and try to find meaning in a jacked up place. And somewhere it's no, Brian. That's the source of the problem right there.
Ron,
that is the source of the
Ron,
problem. Nobody wants to go there.
It doesn't help that you go on social media and you see all these other people living these fantastic lives, and you look at yours and you compare yourself to it.
I got to take another call. Let's go to Barbara. Barbara, what's going on?
What's up, Barbara?
Hi. I just want to make one comment. So Columbine shooting was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy Hook and Fort Hood.
Yes.
What did the previous presidents do about any of that?
Nothing.
And you're attacking Trump.
Excuse me. Do you know what my opinion is on the past presidents?
Yes.
What's my opinion on Obama? You know my opinion on Obama?
I know you don't like him.
Okay.
But everybody's attacking.
Here's why. Here's why, Barbara. Here's why. I'll give you by the way, Democrats and Republicans have not been able to get anything done in Congress. I will blame the right far more than the left. But here's what I will say in regards to Donald Trump and what the difference is between. First of all, hate crimes are up 18% since he took office. Mass shootings are way up since he took office. They're way up. Okay. Now there is a reason for that, and I'm not putting it all on Donald Trump. But when somebody at a campaign rally says something about shooting illegals, hold on, let me finish. I know Ron wants to interrupt me. And then Donald Trump laughs it off and jokes about it when he demonizes illegals. And he goes on the biggest platform in the world every day and does not show leadership. He plays a role. Is he the only reason? Absolutely not. But if you want to blame Barack Obama, who tried to pass comprehensive gun legislation and was unable to, I'm sorry, I'm not going to blame Obama for the Sandy Hook shooting. I refuse to do that.
I wish it were just guns and changing a president that would fix it, Brian.
Barbara, what is your response to that?
We're not going to change the gun control.
Okay,
that's criminals.
That's an idiotic way of
always get guns, Brian.
That is an idiotic way of. So we shouldn't do anything, Barbara.
No, I'm an idiot.
That's an idiot. No, I said that's an idiotic opinion. That's what I said. Okay. Yeah. Well, criminals are always going to be. We got to take a break. We got to take a break.
That is valid. Criminals, take a break. They will always get guns.
Criminals are always going to be criminals.
And gun manufacturers.
We got to take a break.
Big business.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. We got Ron Futrell in studio. Yes, Barbara, I do think you're an idiot. Take that to the bank. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.